How's it going, everybody? Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer here, Wrestling Observer Radio. It is December 6, 2016, figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. We have a lot of news to talk about here tonight. A lot of stuff from the weekend, obviously this coming weekend. There's a UFC on Friday.
Friday and Saturday.
I am so sick of these Friday shows.
Yeah, well, there's a Bellator on Saturday going head-to-head with the UFC. So that's actually all the stuff. There's no big pro wrestling in the United States, but there's a New Japan. The finals of their tag team tournament will be on Saturday Japan time, which is like Friday. I think it's Friday at midnight our time. So I might probably. Well, I am going to stay up and watch that. So even though the tag team tournament finals are usually not that big of a show, it's still, they're going to do the Bullet Club announcement of the new guy, and it's still, they'll probably shoot some angles for the Tokyo Dome. So it's a semi-big show, I guess. But UFC's a Fight Pass show on Friday with Derek Lewis and Shamil Abdurakhimov, and I mean it's like a complete nothing show. The Saturday show, oh God, I wonder if they're going to get like 150,000 buys for that show with Pettis and Holloway. Even though that's probably going to be a great fight, it's just, I don't know. And then, Cerrone and Matt Brown's a great fight too, potentially. Maybe it'll do it, but I don't know. I think it's like the weakest pay-per-view of the year.
Well, we'll get into all that in a little while here, but we got to talk about the Road to Roadblock End of the Line Raw show from Monday night. What did you think of the show?
I like the show. Less filler than usual. The Jericho Owens stuff is always been good, and it's moving along, and finally getting to where people want them to split, and they know they're going to split, and they know they're going to wrestle each other, and it's being done so slow, which I think is a good thing, and just like little things, and so I thought all of that, all the Jericho and Owens stuff was good, telling the story. I thought the Charlotte and Ric Flair stuff at the end was very good. Charlotte was really good. What else was on the show as far as like major stuff?
Enzo, the absolute stupidest babyface ever in the history of this business.
But you know what? Okay, I agree. It was, everyone could see through it, like everyone, so it made him look bad. But at least, it's like at least the baby faces were stupid, but they weren't the degree of stupid usual, in the sense that Cass, like, you could tell Cass like figured it out, although it was too late, and you could tell that Enzo didn't exactly figure it out, but it was like at least like he had some remorse before the whole thing went down. I mean, as far as that stuff goes, I mean, the fight in the hotel room was like a good hotel room fight. It's. I mean, the whole thing with Enzo is like, they're trying to figure out a way to, I guess, get him out of the way so they could.
They want to get him on TV as much as possible without putting him in the ring, which I don't blame him for.
Yeah, I actually thought
he's way better outside the ring.
I actually thought that the segment where Ric Flair arrived and Enzo was leaving was really funny, and it really kind of, I guess because Ric Flair was with him, it kind of made like, I can't say it made Enzo into a bigger star, but it kind of made it like, it kind of gave like Enzo some credibility as being somebody, because Ric Flair was joking around with him and everything. I mean, it was so I mean, it's still too long, and that tag team match with Sheamus and Cesaro and Gallows and Anderson, I was kind of like, the usual thing at that point in the show where it's kind of like, all right, this thing's gone on too long. Now it's, you know what I mean? But, that's going to be like, there's going to be something like that. That feeling's going to come on almost every week. That it's kind of unavoidable. But, you didn't have a lot of like R-Truth and Goldust and Shining Stars and all that. And when they did have Mark Henry and Titus, it went 25 seconds, so it wasn't, I just thought it was a better show than many of the shows have been. Not a great show or anything, but no super matches or anything like that. But it was all right.
So it opens up with Seth Rollins coming down to the ring, And after all this time, now he really wants Triple H.
Yeah, at least we started that. So that's probably what, Rumble or Mania, and we're finally getting that thing. I would say, yeah,
I would presume that Triple H doesn't show up until the Rumble and he throws him out.
Could be. I mean, Triple H, football season ends like in January, so I figure that's when Triple H is going to show up, is probably like the first week of no football. That way, the rating's going to go like way up. So, that would probably be the timing of it.
So Seth says, I would call Triple H out right now, but we all know he wouldn't come out, so I've got to figure out another way to get to him.
It'd be hard for him to come out. He's in Australia.
Well, he revealed his plan. His plan is to beat Kevin Owens, win the title, and he notes that in order to do this, he has to
get a title shot, for one thing.
Well, but he also has to take out Chris Jericho, because as long as Chris Jericho's around, he can't beat Kevin Owens.
What's Roman Reigns' excuse? In the sense that Roman Reigns is facing him and Chris Jericho's still around. How come Roman Reigns doesn't say, like, well, I can't beat him either?
Well, I think Seth's point is, I had a match with Kevin Owens, and Chris Jericho cost me the match.
Yeah.
So I know in my case, I got to get rid of this guy.
Yeah, actually several times.
Several times. So Kevin Owens comes out, and Seth is making fun of him for everything that went down with Jericho last week, and Kevin notes that, yes, he got pedigreed on top of a car, we got into a fight, but you know what? Best friends fight sometimes, and basically, this is just like, Seth Rollins is supposed to be the top babyface. I'm going to digress here for a moment. They've screwed this up literally from the moment he came back from his injury.
Oh, yeah.
And right now, he's struggling to get over as a top babyface. And for some reason, they have to, in his promo, he has to mention how he turned on the Shield, which, of course, gets everybody to boo him in this promo. Yeah, I was like, why did you put that in this promo? And then Kevin Owens brings up, you don't know anything about best friends because you turned on your friends, the Shield. And, of course, everybody boos again. It's just like, can you give this guy a little bit of help to be a babyface? So he brings up that he has no friends, and Kevin says, I'm good friends with Chris. I'm such good friends, I bought him 3 presents. And these presents are matches. He says...
matches to, like, set fires?
No, wrestling matches.
Oh, okay.
He says that, I've got a match tonight against Sami Zayn. I'm defending the title against Roman at Roadblock, end of the line. He says the first gift for Jericho is a U.S. title shot tonight against Roman Reigns. And the second gift for Jericho is a match with Seth Rollins at Roadblock, end of the line. And the third present is Seth Rollins versus The Big Show right now. All of these, Kevin says, he cleared with Stephanie McMahon, who was not at the show for the second straight week. So yes, the opening match is the returning Big Show against Seth Rollins. And the Big Show comes out. He's down to 390 pounds. He's lost a lot of weight. Kevin Owens there at ringside. The Big Show is coming out as the jolly, happy, smiling, slapping hands with the fans giant. And they have a match. Owens jumps up on the apron. He's yelling at Big Show to finish the guy off.
So this is going to really help Seth Rollins
oh, yeah.
when he's facing the Big Show as a babyface.
So Big Show grabs Kevin Owens. He grabs him by the neck, and he goes to chokeslam him inside. And he literally gets him over the top rope, and suddenly time stands still, and like nothing happens for a split second, and then he just slams this guy down to the mat so hard, walks out of the ring, waves to the fans, smiles, he's all happy, he gets counted out, he claps, he goes to the back, and then Seth Rollins takes Kevin Owens, who has been beaten up by a giant, and he gives him the pedigree and lays him out. And of course, the story is that Kevin Owens has now been chokeslammed and pedigreed and has to face Sami Zayn later on in the evening.
And super kick, too.
And super kick, that's right. It's quite the opening segment.
Yeah, it was there, yeah.
We had a Jack Gallagher video package, and then he debuted on Raw and beat Arya Daivari. Had a quick match. Best part of this was, in the video package, Gallagher goes out of his way to explain that his finishing move is a flying heel hook, and then in the match, he did a drop kick in the corner for a finish.
Yeah, I know. I really enjoy Jack Gallagher a lot because I like different, and he's completely different from every single. It's like everybody on the roster is trained to wrestle a certain way, and this guy trains. He wrestles a completely different way, and it's really fun. And after the match, he got chop blocked. So it looks to me that they're going to build up a feud with him and Daivari. And again, Daivari just doesn't do nothing for me.
You'd think they'd sign a rematch for tomorrow.
I'm expecting it's going to be those two in a rematch, and they already announced a Rich Swann Brian Kendrick rematch for tomorrow as well.
I don't want to harp on this, but wasn't the whole idea of Monday to announce things for Tuesday?
Well, they did shoot the angle. They just forgot to announce it, and they did in the other match with Brian Kendrick and Rich Swann. They forgot to shoot the angle, but they did announce the match. So if you combine the two, they in fact did it.
Wow. Titus O'Neil was backstage handing out literature for the Tussle in Texas, which is him against Mark Henry for later on in the evening. But Kevin Owens backstage is very upset. Ran into Mick Foley, complained about the match with Sami Zayn later, said if Stephanie were here, this wouldn't be happening. And Foley says, well, she's not here, and it's happening. So Kevin then runs into Jericho. And Jericho says, I just got here. I didn't see anything that happened tonight. And Kevin says, I got you a bunch of gifts. Did you hear? And he tells him about the match with Roman tonight for the U.S. title, the match with Seth at Roadblock End of the Line. He says, we're good, right? And Jericho says, no, we're not good. And he storms off. Enzo and Cass are backstage. The beginning of the end for Enzo. So they're hanging out, and they hear Rusev yelling at Lana.
Did you hear the line? It was awesome. Where Enzo's talking about this woman as a stallion, and Stallion's supposed to be a guy, and Cass is correcting him and saying she's a filly, which is of course a female horse, which I thought was just like this subtle hilarity.
So there's this argument going on, and Enzo hears it, and he says, I can't stand for this. So he goes over, and he's trying to get involved, and Rusev says, this is none of your business. And Lana says, he's just trying to help. And Rusev is appalled. And he tells her she's pathetic, and maybe you deserve a pathetic man like this. And Lana holds up her hand, and she says, do you know what this is, this wedding ring? It means you're the only one who can have me. And she proceeds to take off her ring and throw it on the ground. And Rusev is appalled at this, and he storms off in a fury. So Enzo says, I got this. And he gives her the ring back, and he asks her how she's doing. And she says, well, Rusev doesn't appreciate me. He takes me for granted. I think he needs to be taught a lesson. Maybe if he saw another man appreciate me, he wouldn't take me for granted anymore. And hey, I'm in the hotel room such and such. And Enzo gets so excited. He's going to get some tonight.
Yeah, nobody believed that one, though.
No!
Nobody.
He was the dumbest guy in the room.
Yes, he was.
And Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, both guys did big flip dives early to the outside. Yes, Kevin Owens, giant flip dive. Sami kind of caught him. Had a long chin lock spot. Sami made this big comeback. I'm going to recount the finish exactly as it happened. Sami slips behind on the power bomb, hits a half Nelson German, an exploder into the corner, a blue thunder bomb. All near falls. Goes outside. He hits Kevin Owens with an exploder into the barricade. Kevin Owens is laid out near death. Sami Zayn throws him into the ring, crawls into the ring, and immediately eats a pop-up powerbomb for the pin. What?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. That's you know what though? That's like in CMLL and WWE, that's kind of how they do things. They just, the one person will have the match completely won. He'll do move after move after move, and then the guy who's going to win, just after the guy's done his biggest moves, will then hit his finisher right there. Like after taking like a million moves, we'll just hit his finisher and then it'll be over.
Well, that's what happened here.
Yeah, I've always thought it's kind of like weird. I mean, when I watch CMLL and they do it, it's like, God, shouldn't there be like a transition, like the guy do 2 or 3 moves rather than just like this finishing move out of nowhere, getting right up from the other guy's big move? But it's just
or at least like one crazy, clever reversal into a finish. There was nothing. He nearly killed him, threw him in the ring, and then the other guy killed him. That was it.
Yeah.
This had to be the least heat for a Kevin Owens-Sami Zayn match ever, which is a testament to what they've done to Sami Zayn.
Yeah, they really have done a number on him. Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, it's the Strowman thing. And who, by the way, he disappeared this week, too.
Yeah, he was nowhere to be found. Maybe he's with Stephanie somewhere.
Maybe he's with Nia Jax.
Roman met with Jericho backstage, and Roman jokes that Jericho still had car paint on his head, and Jericho went off on him. You're the great Roman Reigns. You're always handed everything. Maybe tonight will be my lucky night. And Roman says, you're right. Maybe it will be your lucky night. Or maybe you're just here doing Kevin's dirty work again. Charlie interviewed Sasha. Sasha said last week took everything out of her, took her to a whole nother level. Says she walked into Charlotte's kingdom, walked out with her crown. Says Charlotte wasn't crying because she was celebrating with her daddy. She was crying because she lost. Says, yes, Flair did in fact cost me the match at WrestleMania, but I know why he did it, and Rick deserves better than Charlotte. So she says at Roadblock into the line, they're going to make history again, and she challenged Charlotte to an Iron Man match.
Iron Woman match.
No, Dave. Iron Man match.
I know. I know. That's what they call it. But the thing is that is Sasha Banks going to be the Enzo on that pay-per-view?
Sasha Banks going to be the Enzo? Of course.
Okay, so
I think.
Yeah.
The problem is there's so many storylines where I'm expecting this exact same thing to happen.
Everyone thinks that, and so if it does, it's like, so she's a dumb one too then.
I'll talk about that when we get to the main event. So they recap the Rick-Charlotte breakup storyline. They recap this 3 times, the exact same video 3 times on this show tonight. We had Rich Swann versus TJ Perkins. Talked about Kendrick getting his rematch this week on 205 Live. So TJ got some boos. There were Let's Go Swann chants. And then TJ worked as the babyface. Swann worked him over. TJ made a big comeback. Crowd was virtually dead silent for TJ's comeback. And finally he goes for a springboard. Swann hit a spin kick, knocked him out of midair, and pinned him. Fun match.
I thought that the match itself was well done, but yeah, no heat. And I thought they both worked as baby faces. I didn't think that it was like Swann working as a heel, but it was just like, a face versus face.
Well, he wasn't working as a heel, but TJ's job was to do the big comeback, and the fans were way more into the other guy.
Yeah, well, Swann's a lot more popular than TJ. That's, I think, yeah.
Bayley and Alicia Fox. I don't know how it took them this long to figure this out, but Bayley has new merch, Bayley Bears, which I think are going to lead to a very comfortable retirement for Bayley. Comes out, she's giving these bears away. They announced that on the pre-show, Bayley had given Cedric Alexander a bear, and this made Alicia Fox very jealous, and she got very angry. And so they had a short match, and Bayley won. Yeah, all that over a bear. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine if this were 20 years ago, you could be selling Bayley Bears on Observer Live?
Yep, I suppose so.
Man, oh man.
Yep, for Christmas, right?
That's right. So backstage, Cass tries to tell Enzo.
Bayley Bears.
Bayley Bears. They're going to sell millions.
I don't know about that, but maybe they will.
So Cass tried to tell Enzo that Lana was trouble. And Enzo says, and I quote, "I'm not that stupid. I laughed so hard." So he gets a text from Lana.
And then she sent him a text of her face.
Yeah, of her face. And they're both smitten, and I thought, Big Cass is in big trouble now. So Enzo runs off, and Rusev comes up and wants to know where his wife is. And Cass says, I don't know. And Rusev grabbed him, and Cass got all pissed off and said never to put his hands on him again. And Rusev says, I'll deal with my wife later. I'm going to go talk to Mick Foley and get a match with you tonight. He stormed off. This led to Mark Henry versus Titus O'Neil, the tussle in Texas.
Well, Emma's coming next week.
Yes, she is. Emma returns. Emmalina
returns. So on the house shows, she's been teaming with Dana Brooke again. So she's going to. So at least based on the house shows, she's going to be a heel.
Well, Dana Brooke was not with Charlotte tonight, so maybe they're splitting them up again.
Who knows? There was no reason for Dana Brooke to be with Charlotte tonight, though. I mean, it just wouldn't have.
It would have made it too obvious it was going to be a swerve.
It wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked.
So the tussle in Texas ended in like 1 second when Mark Henry grabbed him, hit the world's strongest slam, and pinned him. And you know what? Everybody went crazy. It's exactly what they should have done.
Thank God. Do you want like a 5-minute
No,
match with these two?
Absolutely not.
God, it would have been horrible.
It's too bad they couldn't just do a 1 count. They could have done it even quicker.
Yeah, 1 count match. Yeah. They did you notice the knock on JR?
I didn't hear it.
So Michael Cole said that's what University of Texas does to Oklahoma every year.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Disgraceful. So Enzo is on the phone trying to tell the Uber driver how to get there, and this led to a chant in the building of "There's no Uber."
There's no Uber in Austin, Texas.
Man, oh man.
And they were told ahead of time there's no Uber in Austin, Texas, but it had already been scripted into the show, and they decided that there's no point in
Dave, you know you can't change the script the day of the show. Don't be ridiculous. So then Flair shows up.
They probably changed 30 things today alone.
So Flair shows up, and Enzo is bragging about what's going on with Lana. He got her hotel room number, and of course Ric Flair is absolutely delighted. And so he gives Enzo his limousine. We had Owens meeting with Jericho backstage. Kevin says Mick has been picking on him all night, but he's still there to make sure there's no injustice in Jericho's match. And Jericho says, just stop. The game plan is I'm going to win this title by myself. I don't want you in my corner. I don't need you in the corner. Stay out of my business and stay away from me. Kevin's very sad. So we had Roman versus Jericho. They teased the Superman punch several times, and finally Roman hit it, and Jericho kicked out. Goes for the code breaker, gets power bombed. Roman went for the spear, hit the post. Very close near fall. Jericho got the walls on, but Roman crawls and gets to the rope. So the ref is pulling Jericho off, and Kevin Owens runs down and super kicks Roman right in the face. Everybody thinks it's the finish, but Roman, of course, kicks out. Owens jumps up on the apron. He's furious, and Jericho starts screaming at him and tells him to shut up and screams, "I don't need you," and shoves him in the chest. Tells him to get the hell out of here. Kevin is very sad, and he sadly walks up the aisle. Jericho turns around, leapfrogs to avoid a spear, then gets hit with a second spear, and is pinned. So it is Roman versus Owens at a roadblock into the line, and the WWE title is the only belt on the line, so they made it clear that Roman can leave as a double champion, just like Conor McGregor.
Yep.
Rusev.
I thought that the match was good. What was interesting is the crowd was for Jericho for the most part. They booed when Roman Reigns made the ropes from the walls of Jericho, but then there was a lot of cheering. When Reigns won, Reigns was actually cheered when he won, though. So it was kind of like but a very feminine cheer. You know, it's like a lot of women screaming for Roman Reigns. Yeah, I guess you had your dueling chants early in the match. So it was the only match on the show that really felt like it had, like, the people were actually interested in the match itself. Because every other match most of their matches were pretty dead.
So then we had the big Rusev angle. So Cass comes down to the ring for the match with Rusev. They play Rusev's music, but of course, no Rusev. And Cass knows immediately that Enzo is in deep shit.
So he calls him to warn him, and then we flash to Enzo, who just blows off the call.
Oh, man. He's going to regret that.
Doesn't pick up the frickin' phone when he's walking there to the room, and Cass is trying to tell him it's a setup. But, you know, he could have texted him, actually.
He could have.
You know, he probably should have. They could do a split-up angle over that one.
You know, they could.
Goes, I was, like, warning you. And Enzo goes, well, I didn't pick up the phone. And then it's like, you should have texted me. That way, because you know, like, sometimes if you're there, you're not going to pick up the phone. But if they text you, you're going to read it.
Well, it's possible that after he called, Enzo put that phone on silent and hid it. He didn't want to be interrupted. So Lana opens up the door in a silk robe. And he says, I know this is a terrible idea. And she gets sad and starts crying. So he follows her into the room and consoles her. And she's now smiling. And he says, I'm really uncomfortable, and she says, I am too. Let me get us a drink. She nibbles a strawberry, and He says, listen, I gotta go. And she says no and rips his shirt off. And then, with no subtlety whatsoever, she says, take off your pants.
That's when he should have left.
Hey, he was gonna. But then she commanded him, and so he finally obliges.
Why? But he did that on his own.
Took his pants off.
Like he can come up with excuses all the way through, but he took his pants off on his own for so that was like, not that I blame him or nothing, but still.
Well, he took his pants off, and she whispered something in Russian, and he says, what does that mean? Like an idiot. She says, you're a fool. Rusev! And of course he comes in and beats the holy living shit out of this guy, smashes a glass vase over his head, beats him all around the room, leaves him literally for dead, drags his carcass out of the room, dumps it in the hallway, and then Lana walks back into the room and puts a do not disturb sign on their hotel door. Man, oh man. He's never going to live this one down.
Yeah, I wonder if hotel security knows about this.
Well, I'm sure they know by now.
Yep. So does that mean the WWE is probably going to get kicked out of that hotel?
It's very possible.
Yeah.
It's very possible.
I mean, when stuff like that's happened at WWF hotels before, some of those, like WWE, it's like bad pub for them.
Well, it's possible Cass got there in time to clean up the mess.
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, as soon as the dude didn't answer the phone and he looked up on the Titantron and saw what was going on, I'm sure he got the hell out of there. Hotel couldn't be that far away.
Yep, that's true. Because Rusev was back in the building, after Charlotte's promo.
That's right, he was. Sheamus and Cesaro versus Anderson and Gallows, where the winner gets the final chance to stop the New Day from breaking the record on Raw next week. This was very clever. They had a match, and at the end, all the guys end up outside. There's a giant brawl with all three teams, and the ref calls for the bell. And so the announcers are wondering, well, who's the number one contender? What are they going to do? And I thought, aha! They're doing a three-way next week. The final week. This is the final chance for somebody to stop New Day from breaking the record. And now it's a three-way where New Day can lose the belts and their record without being beaten. That's clever.
It is clever, but for them to drag this thing out for so long and not break the record, I don't know about that. Especially since the record's being held by a guy who's suing the company.
Well, if it wasn't for that, this could very easily be a good impetus for a heel turn.
They lose and they get so mad that they beat up Cesaro?
Beat up everybody. Flip out. Do something crazy.
Yeah, but beating up Gallows and Anderson, that's not a heel turn.
No, they have to beat up Cesaro.
Then beating up Sheamus, no one's even care about that. So the only one they could beat up is Cesaro.
They need to beat up the trombone and tear off their outfits.
And then sell no more
done being the New Day.
Done selling no more merchandise?
Well, they'd have to get new merch. Anyway, I think they're going to win next week.
Yeah, I know there's been teases of a turn. I don't know if it's time for a turn. Although I guess, Sheamus and Cesaro, would be the opponents if they do turn. Because and Sheamus and Cesaro should win the championship, but it shouldn't be next Monday. It should be like at the pay-per-view. So that way it's on the pay-per-view and they've already set the record.
So the main event was Charlotte coming down to the ring. And she did this big, long, sad... Actually, first they showed the video for the third straight time. Then she did the big, sad thing. WWE meant everything to her. What was harder than losing the belt was seeing Rick come out and hug Sasha and raise her hand. It was like her dad was saying Sasha was the woman. Sasha is the athlete that I wish my daughter was. All she ever wanted was her dad's approval, for him to be proud of her. No one knows what it's like being Ric Flair's daughter in this business. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that was like real, that line.
That's right. Said she hadn't seen him in 6 months.
I mean, she feels so much pressure with that last name, with that name in this business. But she has made it, but there was definitely a lot of pressure.
So Rick finally came out. She apologized. She gave him a big hug. And then, of course, she slapped him across the face. Called him a son of a bitch. Says, I'm your daughter. I can't believe someone else dedicated a match to you. You turn your back on me. So, of course, Sasha hits the ring. Charlotte beat her ass, pummeled her around ringside, tossed her into the post, left her for dead. dragged her into the ring like she was Enzo, dropped her in front of Rick and screamed, "That's your trophy!" Stormed out, and that's the setup for the Iron Man match, to determine the best woman.
Yeah. Yeah, 30-minute match. So, they're giving them, Vince okayed it. And, I don't know. What do you figure? Everyone seems to figure that Rick interferes and screws Sasha.
Well, listen. If you look at the history of Ric Flair, even though he got slapped and humiliated here, he should have respect for his daughter for being the dirtiest player in the game. They get together, now it's a swerve. I figure that will happen. All right, what's up with AJ Styles? He didn't work tonight.
Hurt his ankle last night. I think it may have been that springboard 450, but I'm not actually sure of that. But the one through the table. But he had medical attention after the match. The injury, it's an ankle injury. It's not severe. I don't know what's going to happen as far as SmackDown tomorrow, but the fact that he didn't wrestle tonight makes me, obviously he's hurt if he didn't wrestle tonight, so we'll see what happens tomorrow. No word on this weekend's house shows yet. But man, with John Cena gone, what a thin house show lineup that is. They what would you put as a main event? It would be Dean Ambrose against who'd be like, because Miz is working with Ziggler, although they're not supposed to be working anymore. But that was what they worked tonight, right? I guess you could do Ziggler against the Miz. That's weak. So, yeah, SmackDown house show is going to be kind of weak.
I got Mickie James and Tajiri coming in.
Yep. Tajiri's coming in the spring. And Mickie James, I'm not exactly sure when, but she got a job offer. I don't know that she's actually signed the deal, but she definitely got the offer off of the match with Asuka.
Good, she should have.
Yeah, she should have.
So earlier we were talking about the Bullet Club, and it's looking like the newest member is Cody Rhodes.
Yes, that's who it's going to be, which explains why they did what they did at the ROH show.
How about that?
Yep. So, New Japan's going to be interesting because, Minoru Suzuki lost that Loser Leave Town match on Friday. So, all of Suzuki Gun is gone. But it's only going to be, they're going to, Takashi Sugiura is staying in Noah because he left Suzuki Gun. Him and Suzuki had their falling out, and they had a match on Saturday in Suzuki's last match. So the backstory of all this is, this actually all stems from Noah being sold and Masayuki Uchida being put in charge of Noah. And New Japan, which had been funding Noah and owned a percentage of Noah, they didn't know about the sale. So this is one of those things. They were like Billy Corgan. It's like there's negotiations going on to sell the company and everything. So they didn't know. And as soon as they found out, it's like, okay, we're going to give you to the end of this tour, but all our guys are gone. So they did the Loser Leave Town thing. And I think that New Japan's calling back most of its people. And we'll see what happens with Noah. Their next big show on the 24th, it's all their own guys and nobody new coming in. Sugiura is staying, but he was a Noah guy to begin with. So that's the story with that. But it does mean that Suzuki should be back in New Japan very shortly. At least that's the feeling that Suzuki and his group have.
So what's going on with the New Japan Tag Team Tournament?
Let's see. So the A block, hold on. The A block will have a show on Wednesday. So if Naito and Rush are facing Tamatonga and Tangaloa. And Tamatonga and Tangaloa are 5-1. So if they win, they're 6-1, and then they go to the finals. But if they lose, there's a lot of other things that could happen, depending on what happens. Kojima and Tenzan are facing Brian Breaker and Leland Race. If Kojima and Tenzan win, then they would be 5-2. Tonga and Loa would be 5-2. Naito and Rush would be 5-2. If Yujiro, Takahashi, and Hangman Page beat War Machine, they'd be 5-2. If War Machine beats Takahashi and Page, War Machine would be 5-2. So there's a lot of different ways this thing can end up depending on the matches. So that's what's going on. And then the other group right now, there's a bunch of teams 4-2, which are Makabe and Honma, Seiya Sanada and Evil, Okada and Yoshihashi, and Shibata and Nagata, and Goto and Ishii. So all these teams are still alive, with like the finals being on Saturday.
So this past weekend we had a lot of different shows, and in terms of feedback, there were some surprises.
Yeah, our feedback, we got like a ridiculous amount of feedback for the Ring of Honor show. I mean, like unprecedented. And most people thinking it was like this absolutely fantastic show, which is funny. I mean, I thought the show was really good, but I didn't think it was like absolutely fantastic. And we had actually more feedback for the Ring of Honor show than we had for the WWE show, which is a shock, a complete shock. The one thing is, checking the Google trends, and nothing from boxing, MMA, pro wrestling, nothing all weekend was anywhere, which for a WWE pay-per-view, that's terrible. For a UFC championship match, that's kind of terrible too. For Ring of Honor, doesn't matter. I mean, Ring of Honor has never been on, but they still weren't on. I mean, there's just not enough interest in that. So I don't know that, I don't know what that means, other than it was just amazing how much feedback we got for the Ring of Honor show. I mean, it was happening like on Friday night. I was just getting so much. And it's just like, wow, usually like Ring of Honor, we don't get much at all. So I don't know what it was. Maybe it's just that it's Final Battle. Maybe that's like the big show of the year. It's the only thing I can think of. Because it's not like, I mean, what, Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, I mean, it was built up well, without a doubt. But, that kind of match is on every show. The Bucks and the Briscoe, that's on every show too. Not that exact match, but the Bucks are always in a big match. And they always have those crazy matches. And then as far as like, Will Ospreay and Dragon Lee and those guys, I mean, that was a great new element without a doubt, but it's not like that's going to, get a whole bunch of new people watching. And so many people who responded said it was like the first time they'd watched an ROH show in years. So whatever it was, people just decided to check this one out.
How about that? Alrighty, let's look at some of the mailbag questions here. Mailbag at WrestlingObserver.com. Sammy says, are some of the recent segments with Lana partly due to storylines for Total Divas? And is it just me, or are they using Enzo as a test bed for pushing non-PG material? I can't remember the last time Enzo has actually been PG in a story.
They still have all those promises to sponsors. They're not going to go, they're not going to go that far. I mean, this was something, but it really wasn't that much. I mean, it really wasn't. It was interesting though. But I mean, as far as, what was the rest of the question?
I was just asking if this was the beginning of a test for them going non-PG.
Yeah, they're not going non-PG. They've got too many promises to too many people to do that.
Schwarzenegger says, ITV's World of Sport originally used two different federations for their TV show, All-Star Wrestling and Joint Promotions. They did not produce their own content. Isn't it a bad idea for TV executives who know nothing about wrestling to create a wrestling show rather than buying content from RPW and WCPW? especially after the abysmal celebrity wrestling show in 2005 on ITV.
Well, yeah, I'd have to see the thing. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think there's great potential for a wrestling show in the UK because there's so much good talent there. But the ITV show, well, it had some good talent. Like, if I was going to run a UK show, the guys that I would build around, it's like Osprey, Marty Scurll, probably Nick Aldis, and Galloway for sure. I mean, I could see Grado, but, not as the world champion. But I mean, as far as like it's like they really didn't have those guys. Now, I heard that the 2-hour show is good, and they can always get guys. I don't know what the situation is as far as maybe they don't want guys that have contracts elsewhere. And that could very well be it because they did want to sign everyone up. And all the guys I mentioned, either have a contract with New Japan or TNA or not Aldis. He doesn't have a contract with anybody. So I don't know. Would it be better to work with an existing promotion that's really good as opposed to trying to start your own company? Well, it depends. If they want to start their own touring company and they want to be a wrestling company, then, they'll learn the lessons of being a wrestling company. I mean, if they just want a wrestling show on their station and that's all they want, yeah, you could probably make a deal with one of these existing companies. That might be the better way to go.
This person here says, on the new True Story of the Royal Rumble Blu-ray, Michael Hayes states that at the 1997 Royal Rumble, Austin was eliminated accidentally, and it was ignored so that he would win. Can you confirm?
Sounds right, because I remember the spot. Yeah, it's like he was eliminated and he still won.
This person here says, are Kurt Angle and CM Punk the last trump cards for big WrestleMania returns? WWE has already set up The Rock, Batista, Sting, etc.
Maybe. I don't see Kurt as being... they could get Kurt. It's up to Vince. As far as Punk, you never say never, but I don't see that anytime soon.
Sean says, we all know that Vince has his type of male wrestlers, but what exactly does he look for in women? The top 4 women on the roster are Charlotte, 5'10", with a muscular build, Sasha, 5'5", and a twig, Becky, 5'6", with a muscular build, and Alexa Bliss, 5'1". I actually think many of those heights might be exaggerated.
With this, Charlotte's probably 5'9", 5'10". I think she might be 5'10". Alexa's probably about 5 feet. She's real short. But anyway, whatever.
He says, why is he so dead set on a certain type of male wrestler, but his women seem to be so different?
Guys are different, too. He's got a thing. I'm sure that if they had their way, all the women would look like Lana, but they don't. But, it's the same thing with the guys. I'm sure they want all the guys to look like Roman, and they don't. So, you gotta do the best with what you got. You can't sit there and go, well, I need Hulk Hogan. So where's the next Hulk Hogan? Because the last time they tried to replace Hulk Hogan with another Hulk Hogan, that didn't work out very well.
This person says, I was watching a Saturday night's main event from April 1991 where they ran a big angle with The Undertaker, not selling anything for both Hogan and Warrior at the same time during a Warrior-Sergeant Slaughter match. I'm curious if Dave remembers if perhaps the angle was supposed to lead to Undertaker being part of the 1991 SummerSlam Tag Team match that ended up being Hogan and Warrior against Sergeant Slaughter and his cronies in a handicap match.
I never heard that. They were just looking to get Undertaker over. It was always that, what was it, the Match Made in Heaven, Match Made in Hell match show?
Yeah, Adnan and Sheik, I think.
That match sucked, by the way.
It was quite horrible.
Yeah, but they did have a Bret Hart Kurt Hennig match on that show that was really good. But I never heard that.
This person here says, is there any correlation between gimmick matches, steel cage, tables, etc., and increased house show attendance in the modern era? Given the extra physical toll these matches cause on the wrestlers, are they doing any more on the house show? Are they worth doing any more on the house show circuit?
Well, most like a lot of the house shows for years, the main event has been some form of no DQ match, so that you can have you have a show where you have regular matches up and down the show, and then in the last match you break tables and you do kendo sticks and you may do chair shots and things like that. So it's just the thing that separates the main events in a lot of cases. They don't. I mean, sometimes they do cage matches.
Well, let me add one thing about that, by the way. A cage match and a tables match, there is not an increased physical toll, really. I mean, if you're jumping off the top of the cage every night in the house shows, that would be one thing, but just doing a match inside a cage where you get thrown into the side of the cage a few times, I mean, that's nothing worse than anything you do in a normal match. And a tables match is a setup for one bump through a table, which, unless you get gashed open with the table, it's not any increased physical toll there either. I mean, the table should break your fall, if anything. So, it depends on the gimmick match, but I don't think those two... If it were a ladder match, that's something different, but...
Yeah, and they don't do ladder matches at house shows.
No. This person says, seeing how NXT was taped in Ottawa for last week's episode, will WWE ever pull the trigger of taping NXT weekly before Raw or SmackDown, instead of doing it at Full Sail, just like they canceled Superstars in favor of 205 Live?
Anything's possible.
Is NXT going live in 2017?
I mean, there's definitely talk of it.
I'd heard that. I didn't know if it was official.
Yeah, but if they do, I mean, the expense of flying all those people to a live show, I mean, it'd just be way more cost effective to do it in Orlando somewhere. It's just that would really increase the cost a lot. I would have saved some because they had the crew there as well. So,
yeah, but taping multiple weeks at Full Sail, as opposed to going live, all for a show that is a network exclusive.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money for nothing.
Yeah, because it's not going to get you any new subscribers.
No one cares if it's live or taped.
Yeah. Yeah, but maybe they do. Maybe they think that's what will get them new subscribers.
So we're going to have a deal where they're going to go live, and it's not going to add any subscribers, and then they're just going to go back to being taped again?
I don't know. I mean, the thing is that if they're going to do it live every week, they probably should do it on Monday or Tuesday, because the idea of spending whatever it is, several $100,000 every week on a Wednesday taping. But if the show is on Wednesday and they're going live, then it would be Wednesday every week. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. For a 1 hour show, to do a separate taping on a Wednesday every week for a 1 hour show, I mean, they may do it, but that's, yeah, that, I don't know about that one. That doesn't really make sense to me at all. That kind of cost, once, when you can do it once every 4 weeks and save so much money. We'll see.
This person here says, what's the deal on Summer Rae? When is she coming back? What's her injury?
I don't know, but I don't know when she's coming back. I think I'm trying to remember what the injury was. Back injury? I don't remember exactly. Remember when she said she's injured? She didn't tell anyone what it was.
No. All right, one more here. Has there been any evidence that any of the Japanese wrestling legends have been diagnosed or at least shown signs of having CTE or long-term brain injuries?
Well, the only way to diagnose CTE is if you're dead and they examine your brain, and in Japan, that's just not one of those things that's been done. But there's absolutely no reason to think that it's anything different there than here. Perhaps worse, perhaps the same. That I don't know. But it's not going to be any different. As far as, are there guys, that have problems, later in life? Masa Saito. God, I just saw that angle of Masa Saito. What was it, yesterday? Frickin', that was one of the saddest things in the world. That angle was so bad. They did a show where Masa Saito's I think he's got Parkinson's, and whatever it is, and they tried to do an angle with him. It's literally, this is not an exaggeration at all. This would be like, whatever it is, like, a year ago. And him bringing out Ali and trying to do a physical angle with Ali. That's how bad this was. Mm-hmm. It was horrible. You know, Muto attacked him, and I mean, it's like, as messed up as he is, it's like, I guess because he wrestled for so many years, that instinctively, even though it's like he doesn't really have good control of his body, he sort of knows to sell. You know what I mean? So he does sell. And he does sort of know how to come back, although physically he barely could do it. So it was like he could do, you know, but it was just so sad and horrible. You know, it'd be like, you know, it was just terrible.
All right, everybody, want to wrap it up here for today. There's a brand new back issue of The Observer up on the front page right now. If you want to head there and check that out. New issue is coming out on Wednesday. Check out the Hall of Fame issue if you have not already.